Welcome into Jags A.M. in the PM today. I'm Kainani Stevens. We are very excited. It's draft week. We are a little over 24 hours away from the beginning of the 2025 NFL draft. Brian Sexton is in Wisconsin. We're going to get a live report from him a little bit later on in the show to see what's going on as the Jags get ready to make that fifth pick in the draft. Let's start out with our big things, though. John, you're here with me today. Runaway. As of this point, we've looked at the odds. John, I don't know if you're a betting man, but the casinos have Ashton, Jeanty as the most likely pick for the Jaguars. This is something you and I have been discussing. You've been talking about for weeks now. So is that confirmed? Are we sure about that, or is that just what we think is going to happen?
Oh, am I sure? I'm not sure on anything at this point. And anybody who says they are outside of Liam Cohen and James Gladstone, Tony Vaselli, and the Cons, they're not. And even they don't know because they don't know how the draft board is going to fall in front of them. Mm-hmm. For weeks, this has been Mason Graham's spot. For about 6 weeks, I've been saying, look, there's no, leaning toward Graham, et cetera. Mason Graham being the defensive tackle from Michigan. This is pretty wide open. I kind of think if I was predicting, I would predict Jeanty, but I wouldn't bet anybody's house on it.
Okay, no betting for John then. As for big thing number two, it's going to be trade-off. Part of why this is so hard to predict is because there haven't been any trades in the first round leading up to this. This is the latest we've gotten in the modern draft era, with every team entering the first round with their original pick. John, what does that say about this draft class? I know that there's kind of maybe 3 to 5 prospects people are really feel like they're sure about, and then kind of a middle ground there. So what is it saying about people not making a lot of moves at this point?
Yeah, I wish I had a theory on that. I've been thinking about it, and I don't really have one, which doesn't make great for TV. I do know at the top, teams usually wait if they're going to deal for the number one pick. Or I should say, if you're going to deal for the number one pick, you do it early. But the Titans clearly don't want to trade out. It sort of tells me more about that there haven't been a lot of moves in the past leading up to this. And I think maybe teams might be leaning a little more toward trying to keep picks, meaning sometimes you might have seen a trade last year involving a number one this year, and it lingers into this. Mm-hmm. So it may be more philosophical about teams trying to hold on to their equity and not wanting to tip their hand too soon, or maybe they're not sure with the NIL stuff going on in college that they can predict who's coming out yet. It also may just be a one-year fluke, which sometimes happens.
And of course, we could always see some action on the actual day of the draft as well, so we'll keep an eye on things. Our final big thing today is going to be setting the tone. John, we talked a lot about this new front office. This is their first draft class that they're going to be having, how important it is to the franchise, but also how much are we going to be able to take out of the moves here to kind of predict what this will be like going forward with James Gladstone as GM?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. James Gladstone, I think at the pre-draft luncheon a couple weeks ago, talked about this and said, with the number 5 pick, there is a thought that person is going to be a front of the media guide type player as you go forward. Some people read a lot into that and said, well, are they going after a certain position with that? I don't think it necessarily indicates position. I think it indicates that this is a new regime and you want to get started right. Beyond the 5th pick, though, I think this draft is important for this reason. James Gladstone, coming from the Rams, has a little different view and a little different philosophy about the entire draft. So I think once you get through day 3 on Saturday and you look at the whole mosaic of this thing, for the first time in a long time, I'm very interested to see what that whole class looks like and what it says about how he, but by extension the staff, is going to pick players moving forward, because it's a different world in Duval, as they say, or as I say.
As John says, it's a different world in Duval. We're very excited. We're going to have a live report coming up after the break from Green Bay as we get ready for the draft that kicks off tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Charlie Jordan, and I'm the manager of social media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as manager of social media, we serve as a bridge between the fans and the franchise. And so my passion is rooted in being a fan, but I also get to work with the team each day. The Bright Future Scholarship was huge for me because I was able to pursue an education at the University of Florida. And because I didn't have to worry about paying for classes, I could spend my time covering the sports teams that I work around. I'm extremely grateful for the Bright Future Scholarship and the Florida Lottery specifically for allowing me to earn an education.
Don't make a bad call when it comes to servicing your home. Cooling off with a baby pool in the house to fix your air conditioning problem is a bad call. Trying to catch a wave in a flooded bathroom is a bad call. Using a burning electrical panel to make s'mores is a bad call. The next time something goes wrong, make a good call to Donovan.
Whether you need air, electric, or plumbing service, Donovan is always a good call. It's why we've been trusted by our customers for almost 40 years and why you can trust us to deliver fast, reliable service to your home. Donovan, always a good call.
Visit DonovanAC.com today.
Hey, I'm Logan Cook, punter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Driving distracted or stolen is dangerous for you, and it's dangerous for everyone on the road around you. Ride with Do Not Disturb. That call, text, or social media message can wait. Choose your music before you turn on the ignition. Anytime your eyes are not on the road ahead, you're distracted, so pay attention. But remember, drive high equals DUI. Plan ahead, have a designated driver, keep a clear head to see clear ahead, and let's get everyone home safely.
Jags A.M. in the PM today, brought to you by Fresh from Florida. It is always in season. John Oehser and I are here in the Miller Electric Center in Florida, holding it down in Duval, but we have a crew out in Green Bay. And unfortunately, the Florida weather did not travel with them. We heard it's kind of rainy, so Brian Sexton's going to join us and let us know how things in Wisconsin are going. Brian, you look sad. You look a little sad that you're not in Florida right now.
Well, you know what I was just thinking? I was thinking that instead of Green Bay, we should have done this in Tampa Bay.
Yes.
And I could be standing with my feet in the surf and the sand on St. Pete Beach to do this. In all seriousness, the people in northern Wisconsin are very proud to have the NFL draft here. This is a very, if you've been to Green Bay, you understand, a very small market. There's not a lot of infrastructure, so there are people spread out between here and Milwaukee. They have jumped through hoops, kind of like some of the old school Jags fans in Jacksonville. People might remember what we had to do to have Super Bowl 39 in Jacksonville 20 years ago with the cruise ships and the tents for restaurants. They're kind of doing the exact same thing. Of course, they have the crown jewel, one of the most historical sites in the National Football League. They've got Lambeau Field, and we see Titletown everywhere. And interesting side note, we're standing in Titletown, which is sort of an office park, right? There's restaurants, there's retail, there's literally office buildings and condos, and you can kind of see the vision for what the Cons want to do around the stadium in Jacksonville, kind of like they've done in Foxborough, where you hail from, and what the Kraft family did with Patriot Place. So it's kind of an interesting mix, and of course, when you're in Green Bay, the history is just in front of you at all times.
Definitely going to be a cool venue for the draft. Brian, some prospects, there's some events going on right now. We know that most of the predicted top 5 picks are going to be in Green Bay, so that's exciting. What have you seen so far, and what's going on the rest of the day and tomorrow?
Well, we were out on the Play 60 field where they do an event with the prospects and local kids and Special Olympians. And so I had a chance to run down Travis Hunter, asked him, and you'll see this later, asked him, corner, wide receiver? He just smiled and said both. I said, you're sticking with that one. He goes, why wouldn't I? Andre Carter smiled when I brought up Bretton Strange and talked a little bit about Penn State and how it got him ready to be a pro. A great conversation with Ashton Jeanty. Said that he was, well, when I said, what have you heard from Jacksonville? He smiled and said Duval and talked a little bit about being compared to Maurice Jones-Drew. And then I asked Tet McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, about Jacksonville and what he had heard. And, well, he had a great answer. He said, has anybody heard from Jacksonville? Did anybody talk to Jacksonville? Of course, famously, we know the Jaguars didn't do those 30 interviews, and it made it very interesting. Everyone got a good laugh out of that, but he did mention that he had talked to them at the Combine. He understood the situation with Liam Cohen, the comparisons to Mike Evans, Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side. So we got a chance to run some of them down, and of course we also talked to Mason Graham, who talked a little bit about those 2 outside rushers and what it would mean for him. He's an interesting body style. He's not very tall, but man, is he wide. And he's got the biggest forearms on any player I think I have ever seen. Just massive arms. He was a wrestler in California growing up in high school, and you could definitely see it in his forearms and his hands.
Brian, we were just talking, or I was talking to John, about how there's been no trades thus far. Everybody has their original first-round pick, which is kind of unusual. Usually somebody's made a move by this point. But have you heard has there any rumblings up there? Or does everybody feel like maybe we'll just figure it out on draft night?
Well, I talked to Daniel Jeremiah and Charles Davis from the NFL Network, and they think this is a great draft to build a roster from. There are lots of potential starters. There are lots of potential roster fillers, but there's not a lot of stars, as we know. There are 3 elite players. Everybody's in on Andre Carter, Travis Hunter, and Ashton Jeanty, but it's not a roster, it's not a draft that is loaded with star players from the top of the first round on. So I think that's why you haven't seen that many trades. Teams are looking at the value of the picks, as John alluded to, in the A block, and they want to hold on to those picks. And they're from pick 9 to probably pick 99. It's the flavor that you like, right? I mean, are you looking for a tall receiver? Are you looking for a short, powerful defensive tackle? What fits your offensive and defensive schemes? What fits the style of player and the culture that you've got in the building? And there's just not a lot of differentiation there. Not to say that it's not a good draft, but it doesn't have enough star power to draw people into giving up good quality picks for guys that will be starters for them over time to move up and grab a player that doesn't have that.
Brian, what do you know about draft night? How's it set up? Is it going to be on the field at Lambeau, or what are we going to visually be seeing tomorrow?
You know, we were headed over to the atrium to go on that tour when the rain broke and we went running for the car. So I don't know. We're going to go, listen, on draft night, they keep us in a media room far away. I mean, this thing it's an interesting dynamic of the way they've set it up with sponsors and prospects and fans. So we haven't had a chance to see it. I do know this. There is a stage set up in the parking lot on the other side. You can see Lambeau Field. On the other side is where the stage is set up like it was in Detroit last year, in Kansas City and in Vegas. So that's where the big scene will come, in the parking lot of Lambeau Field. You know, where the rest of the show is? Well, we're going to have to go sneak around and find our way in. Every year we manage to get where we're not supposed to be. So hopefully by the time I join you tomorrow night, we'll have seen things and done things that most people don't get to do.
Sneaky, sneaky. All right, before I let you go, what's your prediction? Who do you think they're going to take in the first round?
I still think it's an offensive player, and I think if they stay at 5, Jeanty makes the most sense. And I think if they back up, if someone's willing to give them something to come up, I think Tet McMillan makes a lot of sense somewhere 9, 10, 11.
I think that's definitely a possibility. Thanks, Brian. We'll talk to you again soon.
You got it. Have a great show.
All right, that's our live report from Wisconsin. We are happy to be in Florida after looking at that weather, but it's going to be a good one. We'll do our predictions a little bit later on, but yeah, we'll check back in with you. Let's stay with us. We're going to do an Ozone mailbag after the break right here on Jags A.M. in the PM.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at Everbank Stadium, because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Floridians, do you know how close you are to freshness? It's not a plane or a ship ride away. It's not across an ocean or over the equator. It's not even a far drive. The peak of freshness is at your grocery store, and it's called Fresh from Florida. Fresh from Florida is local produce grown by farmers right here in our own state, meaning it's always fresh, always in season, and always mouth-wateringly good. Look for the sunny Fresh from Florida logo or ask for it by name where you shop.
Don't make a bad call when it comes to servicing your home. Cooling off with a baby pool in the house to fix your air conditioning problem is a bad call. Trying to catch a wave in a flooded bathroom is a bad call. Using a burning electrical panel to make s'mores is a bad call. The next time something goes wrong, make a good call to Donovan.
Whether you need air, electric, or plumbing service, Donovan is always a good call. It's why we've been trusted by our customers for almost 40 years and why you can trust us to deliver fast, reliable service to your home. Donovan, always a good call.
Visit DonovanAC.com today.
Move the freight, move the freight. Magellan Transport voted the coolest office space in Jacksonville. Apply online at MagellanLogistics.com.
This broadcast is Pass Out Friendly.
Do a little ozone mailbag today. For those of you that do the Wordle on the New York Times, you might want to skip ahead because I'm going to spoil it for today. Ozone is the answer.
Is it? Okay.
It is. I don't know if you paid for that sponsorship or if they just knew the draft was coming up, so they
knew.
It was a nice tie-in. I appreciated it. Let's get to our first ozone question for you. This explains a little bit, helps us go into things. Michael from Arlington says, I know I don't get paid the big money to be a general manager, but if they pick Ashton Jeanty, I have no more faith in the leadership. Nothing against Ashton, but there's no value at number 5 for him on a team with as many needs as we have. Try and break it down for me.
Well, it might take more time than this show has,
Okay.
but I think because so many people watch all the draft stuff and they hear people talk about positional value, right? And there's been such a trend, and I believe in positional value because you have to. And positional value at the top of the draft is offensive line, and it's quarterback. They don't need a quarterback. Defensive line. So there's been sort of a thing, well, if the Jaguars are building up their line, they have all these needs, then they should draft a offensive lineman or a defensive tackle, or I get questions all the time, why don't they draft a position? The problem with the draft and thinking of it that way is you can't think of the draft as we're going to go draft a offensive lineman. It's which offensive lineman are you bringing into your building? At some point, the actual guy walks through the door and he's the player you got. In this case, I would love, and I think they would too, by the way, if there was an offensive lineman that they loved or a defensive lineman that they loved. And by loved, I mean if they thought that it was a guy who was going to the Hall of Fame or had those traits. If it's Jeanty, and I don't know who it's going to be, but if it's Jeanty, the reason they would take him is because his value is so much higher than the offensive lineman or the defensive lineman or whatever. And at some point, you want greatness on your team. So I don't know who they're going to pick, but if they pick Jeanty or if they pick Travis Hunter, whoever they pick, it will be because they think he has the most great traits and the ability to impact everything much more. They would like more guys. What did BTJ feel like last year when he played? He felt like greatness. Mm-hmm. They would like that as opposed to really, really good and solid. They feel like they need greatness on this team.
I think that's hard to turn down because if he's going to be what people predict him to be, that's pretty hard to pass along.
And that's going to be the fundamental reason. Everybody's going to ask, well, why did they do this? Cut through everything else. Whoever they pick at 5, it's because they think that he's that guy more than the others.
Absolutely. Let's go to Scooter from St. Augustine. He's talking a little bit about last year's draft. So he says Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson were drafted in the 2nd and 4th round last year. Seems like the draft and develop plan should not be looking for another interior defensive lineman.
Yeah, and this is sort of a Mason Graham oriented question, I think. Every time you see Mason Graham projected at the top, which has been a lot, I get questions, well, why would they take him if you've already got Mason Smith, you already got Jordan Jefferson, you're moving Armstead in? Again, I think the fundamental thing that's hard to talk to people about the draft sometimes is so many analysts and so many fans want to talk about, well, what do they need? Well, if you look at the depth chart, they probably don't need a defensive tackle. The reason you would draft Mason Graham is the same reason you would draft Jeanty. Do you think this is greatness you're bringing in? And you're not drafting on your depth chart for 2025. In the first round, you want to be drafting, does this guy become a pillar of our franchise for the next X number of years? So when thinking about the draft, as much as you can, try to take what do they need in the short term out of it and think, how can we get our roster to be great? The good teams draft in that, the Baltimores of the world try to draft more toward that than their short-term need.
I feel like we talked a lot about this last year, John, where it's like some of the teams we play, they have those great players where if things are going wrong or even if they're going well, it's like they are dependable to a fault, and if you need to put it on their back, you can do that. And the Jags just haven't had that when they needed it.
I always kind of go back to the Philly game last year, right? Philly won the Super Bowl, the Jags are 4-13. In that game, you didn't feel a huge difference in flow. Jaguars had a chance to win at the end. To me, when I think about that game, I think about Barkley flying backward over Jarian. There were other plays he made, though. Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith made a huge play in that play that was above the X's and O's. Right now, Brian Thomas Jr. is there above the X's and O's guy. So it felt, I don't cover Philly, so I don't know the depth of their roster, a lot of special in some spots in that lineup. I feel like the Jaguars want to come out of this draft with more special.
Absolutely. Let's go to Jay Hooks from Orange Park. Says, Ozone, I loved the Tony interview. Great work. Do you expect Big Bo to be in the draft room for the entire draft? My understanding is he doesn't deal with personnel decisions. Will he just be an observer or will he have input?
Well, he's going to be there. And I would project Baselli's influence to be very much along the lines of offering input when appropriate. Is he going to be in the draft room making the final call, banging on the table, telling Gladstone we're picking this guy? No. He's going to be in the world, and as he has said many times since he got the job, he feels like his job is to help everybody else succeed. At some point during these discussions, I can picture us all kind of sitting around, Tony or James and Liam talking. Talk. Bo, what do you think? Input when appropriate. And I think that will be different picks, different moments, big picture. But he won't be overbearing and banging the table and saying, James, you can't do this. That's not his role.
I think it'll be exciting to see this new dynamic. We obviously have some great access now with the hunt behind the scenes, so we'll have cameras in there and we'll kind of get to see how things are put together in the latest edition of the hunt in a couple of weeks. All right, one more final question for you, Ozone. Tim from Jacksonville, how many NFL drafts have you covered?
Too many.
Too many?
Yeah. No, this will be 31, I guess. The first one was 95. Well, I covered a couple for the Times-Union where I was sort of the auxiliary guy, which was going out to a college player's house. I actually went to Edgar Bennett's house, who's now a wide receiver, for the draft on his draft day when he was playing for FSU. So I did a couple of tangentially like that, but this will be my 31st with the NFL in this capacity. I covered Tony's first draft as a player, went out to Colorado to do a story on his family after he got drafted. I'm now covering his first as a executive vice president, all of which means I'm old.
Got a little full circle moment, though.
Well, it's regrettably, it means I'm old.
I would say wise, learned, a scholar.
Well, you're a nice person.
I do what I can. All right, stay with us. We'll give you our predictions for who the Jags are going to pick in the first round coming up after the break.
Hi, my name is Charlie Jordan, and I'm the manager of social media for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as manager of social media, we serve as a bridge between the fans and the franchise, and so my passion is rooted in being a fan, but I also get to work with the team each day. The Bright Future Scholarship was huge for me because I was able to pursue an education at the University of Florida, and because I didn't have to worry about paying for classes, I could spend my time covering the sports teams that I work around. I'm extremely grateful for the Bright Future Scholarship and the Florida Lottery specifically for allowing me to earn an education.
Hey, I'm Logan Cook, punter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Driving distracted or stolen is dangerous for you, and it's dangerous for everyone on the road around you. Ride with Do Not Disturb. That call, text, or social media message can wait. Choose your music before you turn on the ignition. Anytime your eyes are not on the road ahead, you're distracted, so pay attention. But remember, drive high equals DUI. Plan ahead, have a designated driver, keep a clear head to see clear ahead, and let's get everyone home safely.
Ranked as the nation's best public university by the Wall Street Journal, the University of Florida is on a mission to transform education. UF continues to help grow the economy through research breakthroughs and leadership in AI. And with its nationally recognized career services, UF students and graduates have never been better prepared to make a difference in the world. To learn more about how the University of Florida fuels bold ideas that make an impact around the globe, visit fromflorida.ufl.edu.
Whether you need air, electric, or plumbing service, Donovan is always a good call. They've been trusted trusted by their customers for almost 40 years. Trust us to deliver fast, reliable service for your home. Donovan Air and Plumbing also sponsoring the draft party at Lemon Bar, which I will be hosting. John is very sad he can't be at Lemon Bar. I'll bring you back a Mai Tai or a Hurricane, whatever you want. But that's going to start at 7 tomorrow. So if you want to go, head out to the beach and check that out. That'll be fun. We have some player panels, some prizes, all that stuff, and then we'll stream the draft out there as well, so you can check that out. And John, you're going to be here though, working.
I'm going to be here,
working hard
in the bowels of the MEC.
You're not going to break into the draft room with Tony?
No, we're not breaking into the draft room. The draft is a time to know where you should be, and I know where I should be.
All right, so we're going to have tons of coverage, though, because you'll be here. Happy hours at 4 tomorrow with JP, and then also some pre-show stuff, John. You'll be involved with that at 7:30 here before the draft kicks off. And then also post-pick as well, we'll have some analysis once we finally know who it's going to be.
Yeah, and it's a busy time, but I will say in 10 or 15 years of being around this, we're now at the point at Jaguars Media and Jaguars.com where I don't want to say down to a science because I don't want to jinx it, but it's really good coverage throughout the weekend for this environment.
Very cool. All right, John, if you had to guess, who do you think they're going to go with, or what do you think they're going to do in the first round?
I would love them to get Abdul Carter, the edge from Penn State. I don't think that I think they will have to trade up to get him, and I'm not sure that the price to go get him will be worth it for them to try to do it. So if they are at 5, which I expect them to be, then I'll go with Ashton Jeanty. It feels like they need high-end, talented difference makers. How many times last year, Kai, did we say that they just didn't make the big play at the key moment? He feels like a big play at a key moment guy out of the box. And not only that, feels like I don't think Travis Hunter will be there at 5. I don't think Abdul Carter will be there at 5. If you're looking for the most special, he's going to be the most special guy at 5.
Definitely special. I'm not exactly sure. I feel going in just from who we've talked to recently that with James Gladstone something unexpected is going to happen. I don't know in what regard. Whether that's a trade, I think the offense is the way they're going to go in the first round. So whether that's Ashton Jeanty, who's available at 5, if they trade back and maybe get Ted McMillan to kind of go along with Brian Thomas Jr. and open things up, that's a possibility. But we just predict things. We'll have to wait and see officially until tomorrow.
And I would implore people, and I know this will be spitting into the wind a little bit, whatever pick they make at 5, if it's not offensive and defensive line, this is not an indicator that they don't consider those areas important. I've gotten many questions like that. Well, if the line's so darn important, why don't they just take the best lineman and go with it? Try to keep in mind that top 5, they're going for the most special player in the draft. In theory, you've only got so many shots inside that group, meaning you don't even pick in the top 5 again. So you need to go get special if you're in that category.
Best player available. All right, we have tons of coverage for you the rest of the week, so stick with us. Thank you for joining us on Jags A.M, and we'll see you. Enjoy the draft.